Welcome to another edition of Disability and You. I am Ganesh Singh. On this edition, I will be discussing STEM robotics and children with disabilities. The Ghana Council of Organizations for Persons with Disabilities in 2020 launched a STEM robotics program for children with disabilities in 5 special education needs schools. This program was launched with the support of ExxonMobil Guyana and implemented by the University of Guyana Robotics Club. In 2022, the program was expanded because of the tremendous success of the pilot phase, or phase 1, and STEM clubs were established in all the special education needs schools and resource centers of the Ministry of Education. Currently, there are 10 STEM clubs for children with disabilities across regions 3, 4, 6, and 10, with plans to expand in regions 7 and 5. Also, there is plans to establish a club specifically for children with autism. Joining me on the program is Fiazi Bash, who is the University of Ghana Robotics Club coordinator, and she was instrumental in getting this program, the second phase, up and running, and also played a significant role in ensuring that the program was implemented successfully. Joining Fiazi is Michaela Belgrave and Jerice Jeffrey, 2 beneficiaries of the program, and they are associated with the Ministry of Education Resource Unit for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Welcome to the Disability and You guys, and thank you very much for being here with us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here.
Excellent. Fiazi, I want to start with you first. You've been involved in robotics for a few years. Prior to working with us, what was your initial what was your thought process when you were approached to get involved with this project, working with children with disabilities?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ganesh. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. So I have been a part of the UG Robotics Club since I started university. That was in 2018. And I was there when the first phase of the program was run. I wasn't a mentor, however, but I was just there looking over. So when I was approached for the second phase of this program, I already knew what the program was about. And I understood the initiative, the vision, and the outcome, and how necessary this program was for our students. So I was more than happy to be a part of the second program and to also mentor and coordinate it.
Excellent. Fiazi, let's get straight to the actual work. What was the process like of working with these children with disabilities, teaching them science, technology, engineering, and math using robotic technology?
All right. So I'm constantly engaged in youth development work, and that is something I enjoy doing. And working with these students, I've mentored about 3 schools. Working with these students was amazing. They were very much interested in the program, interested in STEM, robotics, and what we had to teach them. I'm sure Michaela and Jerice can agree that the favorite part of the program was them having fun building the robots.
I'm sure.
Yeah, especially when they had to build robots relating to renewable energy so that they can understand renewable energy concepts and how it's related to Guyana.
Excellent. So if you can just break down the curriculum that was used by the UGRC to implement the program, what are some of the areas that were covered other than renewable energy, which you mentioned?
Yes. So some of the core concepts that we integrated into the curriculum was recycling, energy awareness, introduction to coding, problem solving, and of course, robot building.
Great. Fiazi, I'll go to your beneficiaries, and I'll start with Jerice. Juries, what was the experience like being exposed to STEM robotics when you started in the program?
Good afternoon once again. Thank you so much for having me here. Well, it was fun, actually fun. I really enjoy building, like my mentor said. Every single thing about the STEM Robotics Club was fun and interesting at the same time.
Hmm. So, what kind of robot did you build?
Well, the first project we built was a solar rover, and then we built we built a solar car that runs with the sun and a fan and a wind power car.
Hmm. So, you utilize the solar technology in most of your projects.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. What about you, Michaela? What was the experience like being part of the program?
Um, good afternoon. It was fun. It was enjoyable.
Hmm. And what did your project? What was the focus of your project?
Same thing like Jerry said.
Also, it was a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
Mhm. And what would you say to other children or young persons with disabilities out there about the program? Would you encourage them to get involved?
Yeah, I would say it is a good opportunity that they, should definitely take because you learn a lot. And I never knew that, you could build these things and especially coding. I found that I really like coding.
Hmm.
Um, with the app Scratch, it was really fun for me.
Excellent. And I must highlight that both Michaela and Jeris, they are totally blind. So, Michaela did coding, and I'm sure Jeris would have been exposed to it too as a blind person. Um, Michaela and Jeris, both of you probably can take this. Um, you are currently a secondary school student, Jeris, and Michaela, you would have been a former secondary school student. In your lessons in school, do you guys cover much of these STEM concepts like the science, technology, engineering concepts, and so on in your actual classwork?
No, sir, because I'm a business student, and
Mhm.
at my time at North Georgetown from Farm 1 up to Farm 3, we didn't do anything like that, sir.
So, through this program, you were exposed to these concepts.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. What about you, Michaela?
Same. I mean, maybe some aspects we touched on, maybe like energy in science class, but not like in depth like we did using the STEM program.
So, through the STEM program, you guys were able to to learn a lot more about the field of STEM.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. More in depth, in depth.
Great. Fiazi, from what Teresa and Michaela would have said, we can already measure some level of success and achieving the objectives of the program. But for you, what, or how do you assess the program or the success of it based on working with the children and the feedback you would have garnered from your fellow mentors?
So to wrap up the program, in addition to all that I would have learned in class, all of the concepts, all of the robot building, how we ended the program was to have the students work on a project where they can bring their creative ideas and use the knowledge that we have taught them to create something to solve an environmental issue in Guyana. And I think you can agree that we can measure the success based on the exhibition that we had
Yes.
last month.
Yeah.
Yes, last month, where the students were able to display their projects that they would have worked on, and their projects solved environmental issues around Guyana, from prototypes of recycling robots to models of renewable energy communities. So yeah.
Great. And what about the students from the other schools, especially the children with developmental disabilities and so on? Did you guys see a lot of development with those students?
Yes, definitely. During the classes, so we have a lot of mentors across each different schools. So every weekend we would regroup, understand how the students took the concepts, how they understood the classes, how we can help them to improve, maybe what we can do better, maybe break down the curriculum a bit more, incorporate more hands-on activities. So what we found is that our students love practical activities. So what we tend to do, in addition to the robot building, we would try to find some additional hands-on activity that they can do and enjoy and be more engaged in the concepts that we teach.
Excellent. So the curriculum was a dynamic one where you guys were, modifying as you go based on, challenges, experience, and also the learnings.
Yes, definitely.
Fiazi, if you can just highlight some of the challenges that your mentors would have experienced in implementing this program. Because I know it's a new, working with children with disabilities, it was new to most of your mentors. So what were some of the challenges that they would have shared?
I think one of the challenges, before I get into the challenges, I think one of the positive was having the teachers at the school because they help to communicate with some of the mentors and assist the students when we couldn't. However, one of the challenges, for example, we taught schools in Region 5 and Region 10. However, our mentors aren't in those areas, so we had to resort to virtual meetings.
Virtually.
And the virtual was pretty much a challenge because when it comes to hands-on, we're not there with the students to do certain things. So we had to depend on the teacher. Thankfully, they were very supportive, very helpful, and they assisted us tremendously. So I think the major challenge is for us to get more mentors or perhaps even train the teachers so that they can make this STEM program something permanent, something continuous and sustainable so that we can continue it further.
Excellent. Fiazi and Juris, before we wrap up the interview, I just want to focus on another initiative that you guys recently participated in, and that was the Ministry of Education Science Fair, where the Ministry of Education Resource Unit for the Blind, they would have had an exhibition, and Juris, you got second in the information technology category for upper secondary. Tell us a bit about the app that was developed, Fiazi. I think it's a Civis, the app that was developed. I know you were again instrumental in getting that app developed, and also the whole initiative for the school. So tell us a bit about that app.
Yeah, so when I was approached with the idea and to offer my assistance, the idea behind the app or the goal was to help visually impaired persons or persons with low vision to be able to understand what a diagram has on it. So the app, I will let Jerice explain further into his project, but as it relates to the app, it was a simple app created with MIT App Inventor where the app is able to scan a barcode or a QR code that is attached to some diagram, and then the app then scans that code and provides the information that is related to that barcode, and the visually impaired person or low vision person would be able to understand what the barcode has as it relates to the diagram it is associated with.
Excellent. Jerice, you want to explain a little bit more about the project itself?
Well, sir, the app could also be used by anybody, for example, vision impaired people like myself, because that app could be very helpful to me, because every single time I need to read something, I need to ask like one of my family members to read for me. So that app will be very helpful for people like me. It will also be used by seeing people because the app comes with text feature and talkback feature, and the app could be used basically by any person with disability.
Hmm. And did you expect that you would have your school and by extension yourself would have gotten second? Did you expect that?
To be honest with you, sir, I've always dreamed big. So at first, I'm very happy I get second place, but I was aiming for first, but second is very good, sir, for me.
So you always set yourself,
Yes, sir, I always dream big, sir.
you always set yourself high goals.
Yes, sir.
All right. Fiazi, anything finally you want to share?
No, just congrats to Jerisa on winning second place in the science fair. Good job.
Thank
Excellent. And congratulations to both you, Juris, and Fiazi, along with Miss Rosemary from the Resource Unit for the Blind for getting this project, and all the teachers that were involved in ensuring that the project, could have gotten to the exhibition. Okay, I know it was, took a lot to put it together. So thank you very much, Michaela, Juris, Fiazi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us here again.
Great.
Yes.
And I am sure that the STEM program for children with disabilities will continue to reap benefits and benefit the disability community as a whole. I now have with me Rosemary Ramett, who is a disability rights advocate and also the coordinator for the Ghana Council of Organizations for Persons with Disabilities, Women with Disabilities Network. Rosemary, this year International Women's Day was observed under the theme Digital Technology and Innovation for Gender Equality. What does this theme mean for women with disability?
All right. So while I know the theme talks about gender equality, I just want to say that that goes beyond just gender equality. When we're looking at persons with disabilities, especially women, because we know that technology and innovative technologies play a huge part in ensuring that there is equality for people with disabilities. And so it's no different when we look at women with disabilities, because women with disabilities, it's known that they are not as empowered as their counterparts without disabilities. And so many women don't have access to education and employment. And so through looking at this situation through the lens of digital technology and innovation, for me, it means that women with disabilities are able to participate in some meaningful way in terms of acquiring education or employment. And so that also empowers them as a woman to be able to find independence and empowerment in whatever way.
So let us deconstruct it. The aspect. Let's focus on education. How can digital technology facilitate learning for women with disabilities?
All right. So much as we have seen throughout the pandemic, technology has always been a friend to persons with disabilities. And for women with disabilities, let's say we start looking at women who may have some form of visual disability, then technology in the form of assistive tech, such as like screen readers and all the other devices that come like with magnification settings and things like that, those are able to facilitate learning in a way that is meaningful, and it also makes information accessible. For women who are wheelchair users or women with mobility issues who are unable to leave the home for whatever reason, can still be educated through online forum, and they are able to acquire that education by using technology. And then too, we have a lot of innovative technologies that are designed specifically for people with disabilities. And so women with disabilities who may not have, let's say, the use of their hands, they can still be able to use speech to text software to be able to help them to acquire that education.
Mm-hmm. And what about the field of employment now? How can technology help to facilitate the employment of more women and girls living with disabilities?
All right. So when it comes to employment, again, facilitating access is one of the main ways in which technology can enable women with disabilities to gain employment or gain a level of independence. But what I wanted to highlight is that there has to be that accommodation within the workplace or even in a general employment setting, whether it's online or whether it's in person. There has to be the provision of that kind of reasonable accommodation that would enable that woman to be able to be employed. And also there has to be the opportunity for employment. And so we know that technology helps to facilitate access, but first we have to start ensuring that there is the opportunity to be able to get access.
So it starts with changing of the whole culture of employers to employ more women with disabilities.
Yes.
What about technology facilitating remote working for those that you mentioned, persons that can learn remotely, that might not be able to leave their homes for whatever reason? Do you see technology playing any significant role in remote working for people with disabilities?
Definitely. And for women who are entrepreneurs, they can use online marketing strategies, which is something that a lot of small business owners are doing. And so these women with disabilities, they're able to market their business and they can be able to earn income. But added to that, you also have, remote employment, as you mentioned. And these women are still able to participate in society in some way because many of them have families, they have children, and so they are able to provide for their family and still be able to feel some form of independence through that remote employment.
Rosemary, you mentioned technology playing a role in education, employment, and so on for women and girls living with disabilities. But before they can learn, before they can be employed, they need to have access to these technology and have access to training to use these forms of technology. How accessible are these to women and girls with disabilities in Guyana?
Right, which is why I had mentioned before having access. So we know that the population of persons with disabilities, it's a very diverse population. And so the extent to which the different persons with disabilities would have access would be dependent on perhaps the type of disability that they have. And so I would say that women who are deaf, women with intellectual disabilities, and women with physical disabilities are perhaps the most vulnerable population when it comes to having access to education and employment. And while I can't speak from a personal experience, I do have colleagues, and I have worked with women with disabilities, with those specific types of disabilities, who are unable to access either education or employment as a direct result of their disability, and the fact that these two areas are not provided to them in a way that they can access it.
Rosemary, we cannot wrap up an interview focusing on women without highlighting gender-based violence among the population of women and girls living with disabilities in Guyana. Because we know that is something that would affect their ability to learn, their ability to be employed, and even just to live an independent life. How prevalent is gender-based violence within the community of persons with disabilities?
All right, so while we don't have any reliable form of evidence or data, we do know that the prevalence of gender-based violence among women with disabilities is extremely high, and that's a result of many factors. And again, this goes back to having opportunities of education and employment, because many women tend to stay in situations where they're experiencing violence because they are unable to do better, or they don't have the opportunities to be able to leave that environment. And so, thinking about that within the frame of the theme of International Women's Day, I think that digital technology does have a part to play in terms of ensuring that these women have access to services and access to information. And when you look at the, let's say, the 914 hotline, or for instance the iMatter app that is available, those are forms of technology or technological tools that can be used to provide services to these women.
Rosemary, any final message for women and girls living with disabilities that that are out there? Anything would you like to tell them?
My message to women and girls with disabilities is for them to remember that we do have a community of other women who can be able to support you. We are working on setting up a network of survivor advocates for women with disabilities who might be experiencing violence at home. And just reach out to that network and get involved in the community of persons with disabilities, because we would not know that you were there if you're not involved in our community. And so there are a ton of resources that you could access, and there are a lot of opportunities for which you could benefit. So my advice to you would be to reach out to an organization for persons with disabilities within your region or within your area. You could reach out to GCOPD and get in contact with us, because that is really the first step of ensuring that you have access to whatever opportunities are available.
Excellent. Rosemary, I want to thank you very much, and also thank you for the work that you're doing in the empowerment of women and girls living with disabilities.
All right.
To you, the public, I want to thank you very much, and this will be it's now time for me to put a wrap on this edition of Disability in You. Join me next time.